Your big day has come.
This is your big day.
We're getting the 483 loaded up here. We've got all our extra goodies, and we're going to head over north of Fort Collins to
Pete's
our
shop.
buddy Pete. He's got a dyno that actually works, because we also have a dyno. It just doesn't work. So he's going to run this for us and ready to see what happens. The only thing different at this point from the last video when we ran it is we put a different set of valve covers on it. Those ones that I made with the Lexan windows probably start melting about 180 degrees.
Yeah.
And with how, this is going to be running a little bit more extended time on the dyno than it did on our stand, we were kind of concerned about those starting to flex and
underload.
Yeah.
On our dyno, it was just kind of freewheeling. Build a lot of heat in it.
So I don't know if they would have melted necessarily, but they might have started to flex enough that the silicone would let go. And considering we're in somebody else's shop, we probably don't want to start a fire with oil dripping on the headers.
Yeah, we don't need oil running down across the headers, making a mess in his shop and going up in flames.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe do this in steps. Go to $2 grand, $3 grand, and $4 grand.
Okay.
And I'll just kind of try to map it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Okay.
I just don't know if it sounds right up there. It's bouncing. At 3 grand, the timing mark is not bouncing. At 4 grand, it's starting to bounce, and I think I can hear it. You know, because it sounds like it's missing just a scope.
Well, I have a hard time holding it
Oh, so
at
it might be
4,000.
you? It might
Well,
be you?
maybe.
Both.
Because 2,000, 3,000, it's easy to hold it there, but I get to 4 and I keep up and down over it.
I can hear a miss. And it starts happening right when that timing's going like this. But I don't know what that means. You know, I'm trying to figure it out.
Okay.
So I'm thinking what we should do is I should put some load on it and just let's do it wide open and see if the airflow ratio comes down to what it's supposed to do.
Okay.
Well, should we talk about our dyno experience?
Sure.
I don't even know where to start. It's always weird when you're...
Well, first off, we want to thank Pete.
I think
for
we
all the
actually
help.
work really well with Pete.
Yeah,
I actually really like Pete.
I enjoy working with Pete.
There's a lot of pressure when you're working on somebody else's time, in somebody else's shop.
Engine we built in a shop that he built.
Yeah. It just... And then trying to do videos on top of it.
Yeah.
It just gets really hard, and we end up focusing on getting... The video thing falls to the back burner. So we don't end up with a lot of really good footage of everything that we've done. But we went over there, had to drill some holes for the bell housing to...
His dyno was not set up to get a Chrysler motor mounted on there. That's not what he normally does, so we had to...
So you
do
kill
some
half a day getting the engine set up to go. Fire it up, runs just like it ran here, which was a good start. But then, you know, the first thing we wanted to have him do is kind of let's set the timing. Well, we start doing that, and you know, at idle it was timing
looked pretty good.
Is pretty good. 2,000 RPM. It seems like it's
okay, stable.
You hit 3,000 to 4,000 RPM, and the thing starts missing. We're dumping oil everywhere.
Let's get this out of the way.
And he's got the timing light on there, and he tells us that timing is just bouncing all over the place. And you could hear it in the way the engine was running. It didn't like...
Yeah, it was not smooth, was kind of sputtering along. Just didn't sound like it should sound.
We dig into it, and what we finally decided it was, again, didn't really film any of this because it's just, we're just trying to, we're working against time. But describe our issue.
Let me go get one of those distributors.
Okay.
So I've got another distributor here. In fact, this is the one we had in it at the time. But you could grab the rotor, and literally there was this free play in it about that much. And I had noticed that when I initially dropped the distributor in, and I thought, initially, that's just something in the advance weights there, and once it's running and you have the force of the weights acting on that, it'll take care of that. But it did concern me at the time, but not being a tune-up guy, I don't do this all the time, so I didn't know really what I was seeing. But what we determined was this screwdriver slot here on the bottom,
Tang
that engages into the oil pump drive gear. The new gear and shaft we got, the slot in that shaft was cut too wide, and we had all kinds of play in it down here on the bottom end, letting that bounce back and forth.
So we had rotational backlash in the intermediate shaft to the distributor shaft.
Yeah.
And it seemed like maybe it was hitting a harmonic at 4,000 RPM.
Yeah, it seemed like at the lower RPMs, it just must have kind of kept tension against it and didn't show up. But when you got up to the higher RPMs, I think it was letting this thing bounce back and forth.
Yeah. And I don't know, I know at one point when we pulled it out.
Yeah, if you look real close, you can see that it's only shined up just the outside edges here.
Which who knows, because it only ran for 30 minutes.
Yeah, 30 minutes time on it. But when I looked at the original stuff that came out of this engine, you could see a nice shiny wear pattern all the way across where you could tell it was fitting much tighter.
Engaging a lot tighter.
Yeah.
But of course, we left at the time we didn't know if it was a distributor thing or the oil pump gear. We didn't know which side it was on. So.
And it was the end of the day, we're out of time.
Yeah, we're out of time. We had left his original distributor there. This is the day before Thanksgiving, so we can't buy anything. Like, we're just screwed. And our only other day to finish up on the dyno is the day after Thanksgiving, which we had hoped we wouldn't need the second day anyway, but that's what happened.
Kept that in the back of our mind.
So we come home, and sure enough, we get the original intermediate shaft from when this was a 413,
yes.
And you compare it against the tang on the distributor, and it's like, what the heck? That's definitely where our backlash is.
Yeah, it fit. I mean, it slipped in. It was not a press fit, but it slipped in. But you didn't have
slop.
You didn't have all this slop back and forth.
You had the clearance you would expect to have, but you didn't have slop.
Yeah.
So, okay. Luckily, you've got Dale up there, your buddy.
Yeah, my buddy Dale had some parts and pieces that we got a hold of. And also keep in mind, we have to use that intermediate shaft with the melanized gear on it because we have the steel billet camshaft in here.
Yeah. So anyway, we ended up using, this is a Mopar Performance brand new distributor that our buddy Dale had. Not because we were condemning this one, but at the time we weren't sure. We were like, maybe there's something messed up here too. And maybe we went and changed too many variables at once.
We changed too many at once, but when you're scrambling for time,
you want to eliminate
as many as you can all at once.
Yeah. So anyway, get back to Pete's, and we're like, okay, we took the original intermediate shaft, but again, we have that melanized gear. So we spent half the morning on Friday trying to get that gear pressed off that shaft without destroying the gear.
Yeah.
And my God, that thing was stuck on there.
Yeah, I don't remember ever trying to press one of them apart, but I could not believe how tight both of them were. How tight it was to get the original shaft out of the original gear, and how tight it was to get the melanized gear off of that performance shaft that the slot was too wide on.
Ended up having to cut it off, and then drill to relieve the press fit, and then press it off. Put it on the factory intermediate shaft, and then drilled and pinned it just like it was brand new. $250. Why would a $250 part actually work in today's day and age? Put that in the engine, put this distributor in, and fire it up. Set the timing, and it was stable.
The timing was just as stable at 4,000 as it was at 1,000.
This is where you guys had it running, was out here.
Yep, just
Right here. It's holy ground. It is holy ground.
Yeah, this is more kind of the hobby shop,
Yeah.
but as we buy new equipment, I'll probably start putting it in here, like the lathe. I built your engine right there on the stand. Same thing in this shop, we put a crane in, but we put a 2-ton rated crane in here, so if the engineer says 2, it'll probably do 10, so. I don't know. But
You got your
baby cage.
case, playpen.
I promise I don't put her in there with it upside down. I really do. Better flip it the other way, but
I mean, I have a 3-year-old and I didn't think anything of it.
well, people, I can't believe you call it a baby cage. So I'm like, it's kind of what it is. But yeah, this is our little dyno that we were telling you. I mean, we used the stand to run your engine on, but this is that small block Chevy I was telling you about at lunch that we just posted a video. Kind of using the dyno to test that engine, but also using that engine to test the dyno.
Yeah.
We're trying to revive it because your engine was kind of a catalyst to be like, okay, we need to have our own dyno so that we can spend more time with it and not be paying somebody hundreds of dollars a day.
Not that we don't appreciate
Oh, we absolutely.
Pete's help, and
Pete's
we don't
great.
think he overcharges or anything. I don't want anybody to get that idea, but
Yeah, Pete's the dyno guy.
Yeah.
And
Well, you only have so much time, and he's got other people that
and he's got other things to
appointments
do.
and-
And
yeah, for sure.
It's kind of awkward to film in somebody else's shop, and you know you want.
It's awkward to film when anybody else is there.
yeah,
Isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
We'll
So-
sometimes have customers that are in the corner, and I'll start whispering to Caleb. I'll be like,
yeah.
He gets so irritated about it, and I
Yeah.
have to cut it out every time.
Right.
What's this guy doing?
In hindsight, I wish we would have tried to get this going a little sooner, but even if we had, your engine needed to be on a dyno that we know functions properly, and you know, there's just enough time and money into yours that we needed to be in the right spot to test that, not testing it on a dyno that we're testing.
Yeah.
So hopefully in the future in our videos, we'll be able to test customers' builds here, and you know, that's the missing aspect that we've always been missing on our channel is we do all the machine work and we build the engine and then we send it out the door without anybody ever seeing it run on the camera. So
over the years, I'll bet I've never even seen 0.5% of my engines run. The only time I ever hear one of my engines run is when it's a problem engine. And it comes back to haunt me.
Because we've always been a machine shop, not a not a tune-up shop. Or
well,
whatever.
the dynamics of all of this have changed things.
Exactly. The knee mill we bought, that's what I made the valve covers that we used.
so cool.
For the, I wish we could have run those on the dyno, but the Lexan, you know, the clear plastic there starts melting at about 180 degrees.
Yeah, that's what you said,
And it was just, I didn't want to start spewing oil all over somebody else's shop and so on. So, but if we
there were some comments that talked about how little oil was. And that's because those push rods aren't hollow.
Yeah, exactly. The push, it doesn't have push rod oiling, so it's
not
all
gonna
oiled through the rocker shaft, and it's exactly. It's not you know, like a small block Chevy where the oil is coming up through the push rod and then spurting out over the top of the rocker. That's not how your rocker arms are designed. So it's feeding up through a passage in the block, through the cylinder head, into the rocker arm shaft, and then just kind of drips out onto the valves and so on. So
well, there you go. That would be why
you
guys didn't see it.
And that's something that it's kind of funny because nobody would have ever known that and questioned it if I didn't make these valve covers.
Exactly,
But
100%.
You put stuff on the internet and people freak out.
No,
So
we can't use those because 180 this will melt.
yeah,
This is some work right here that Nick did for
fun.
and for, like, you know, 5 minutes of video footage.
Exactly. So
Hours of work. You guys have no idea what it takes. No idea.
yeah, but that I don't know. That was fun. So I'm gonna hang on to those just
Yeah,
in
sure.
case we ever do another
Absolutely.
Mopar, but
Yeah,
I'm kind of
my next one. You mean?
yeah, maybe. But
I'm gonna send you a 440 block next time.
yeah, something
Yeah.
a little the right thing to start with.
Yeah, the right thing to start with. Hey,
It
it's
was
what I
fun.
had.
It was
Yeah,
fun.
yeah.
So
I like you got a lift in here too. It's sweet.
I didn't even think about the lift.
You need anything done like on your own car. You're not working on the ground anymore. Right?
And that's exactly it. We don't do anything on customers' vehicle unless there was a big issue that they needed us to, but really
This lift is more for you guys.
it's more for us
Yeah.
for changing oil
That's
and
awesome.
simple
I
stuff.
know. My next place, a garage with a lift, 100%.
Yeah. And a crane.
Oh yeah, that was sweet too. Instead of my Harbor Freight engine hoist I just bought.
Yeah. Now
Hey, I remember this box.
Yeah, I destroyed my toe the other day before we put the engine in, so I can't imagine how heavy it is now that the engine and your old parts are in.
You know, what's funny is we're loading this into a truck, and then we're driving it up to Breckenridge. So this is gonna sit in the back. There's an engine sitting in the back of a truck.
There she is.
Yes.
And we've got your old crankshaft, your old heads,
Yes.
old valve covers, everything in here.
You were using that to lift this?
Yeah. We have a habit of sending customers home with our straps. And
Yeah.
we never have straps around, so.
Yeah, right. Where did you get that strap?
Probably want like MSC Industrial Supply or something.
somewhere
along that
online.
line.
How soon do you need that strap? What if I would make sure you get it back?
You know what? I probably need a new one.
Yeah.
So I'll just order
Are
a new
you
one.
sure?
You can have this one.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
I'm
That
sure.
works too.
Are you guys comfortable with
This-
that strap holding this? Cause
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Yeah, these
by
are-
the time we get home after 25 hours, I'm not gonna want to dick around and
Yeah.
find bolts that are gonna, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to be able to lift it, I'll probably unbolt it. Yeah.
Am I reading that right? 6,400 pounds capacity?
6,400.
Yeah.
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 Holy crap.
So
From a
stuff-
strap. Are you
stuff
sure?
it- I'm sure.
You don't mind?
Stuff it back under there. It's not. a
There you
big
go.
deal.
All right.
Sweet. The engine you started with,
Yeah.
I think, was a very low mileage, pretty nice engine
Yeah.
until it got left sitting out and got water in the
Yeah.
cylinders.
Yeah. And
Well,
as
and-
you said that when you pulled the bearings, they were stamped 72, and that's
Yeah.
what I was told.
And then these heads, they're not off.
They're not. I knew that
Yeah.
because the industrial motor had different heads than
Okay,
what.
well, that's what I kind of wondered,
Yes.
if this block didn't have the industrial heads on it that went away somewhere.
I think that's the case.
And then these heads got put on, but these heads are rough.
Yes.
Really rough. But your short block was really, really nice,
Mm-hmm.
with the exception that it had sat out and got water down the.
The pistons were factory, the
Yeah.
bearings were all factory, and
So
like
the-
you said, not a lot of runtime on it. A couple things that I did want to go over
Yeah.
on this. Originally, I told you I was going to put black valve covers on it.
Yes.
The reason that I didn't paint these black, and I mean, I don't know what your preference is. I just thought it was going to look cool with black. But you know you may have a clearance issue with your brake booster. So what I've seen other people do, I mean, this is one of those things that we can't tell without having the vehicle here.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
until you get it in there,
Yeah.
you're not really going to know.
Yeah.
But I have seen on the internet, one thing people do is take and basically cut down the valve cover. Am I looking at the right side
Yep.
here? Yeah.
Yep.
Because where we have a clearance issue with our rocker arms is actually kind of in this area.
Yeah.
It's a width issue, not a height issue. So there's a lot of height that you can decrease here. So you, again, I don't know, but you may have to potentially find somebody to kind of rework this valve cover.
Okay.
Well, I don't know if you can see down there like the original valve cover is. It
Tapers
down
Yeah.
in the back here.
Yeah.
And we think you could do the same thing with these. It'll
Okay.
just go better without having any paint on there if somebody
Yes,
was
for
trying
sure.
to
That makes sense.
And
weld that in.
I just
I don't-
take a hammer to it and like.
yeah, maybe.
That's the extent of my fabrication
Yeah.
skills.
I don't think cast
kidding.
aluminum will fabricate very well
Yeah.
with a hammer.
Yeah.
What about on the? I could just beat the brake booster in on the bottom
You
too.
probably don't need the brakes.
That's pretty.
So, or you could do a
Hydro Boost, but I don't know if you've looked at any of those systems.
I haven't. This research will come in when I put it in and I realize it doesn't fit. Maybe I'll even unbolt the booster just to.
Well, and I'm optimistic that maybe you'll get lucky, but it's just one of those things that we can't tell here.
Yeah.
You know, I can look and I can tell the heads are taller than the old heads.
Yeah.
And I can look at your picture that you sent me 6 months ago and go,
right.
I don't know. But
right.
the dipstick may or may not work where it's at.
So that's good.
Did you put his?
Yeah,
There's another brand new dipstick.
What's wrong with that one?
I just don't know if
it's
you'll have
not-
clearance with your
yeah.
brake booster.
Oh. I think the clearance issue is up in this area, not down here.
yeah.
I just
you're
didn't
talking
know if
about
you'll be able to
stick it.
reach in and.
You know, your old one,
It was up further. It was up here.
yeah, and it looked like
was so
a
janky.
coiled up snake.
I had to use a pair of Nino's vice grips to
try
get
to
it
get
down
through there.
back down in.
So Nicholas ordered a brand new OEM dipstick for it that's laying down there.
Yeah.
Well, it won't fit with any of the headers. Okay. That's why your old one looked like it looked.
Okay.
Because they tried to wrap it around the headers to make it go.
That makes sense.
So anyway, I cut your old one up
Yes.
and just made that little shorty there.
Yeah.
And it worked fine for us here.
Okay.
Whether or not it worked for you, I don't know, but that's going to be your problem.
Yes, it is going to be my problem.
We do have oil and a new oil and a new filter in here that we want you to run for 500-ish miles.
Okay.
And then change
That
it.
oil's in here already. It's in there now.
already in there.
It has break-in oil in it again.
Okay.
So theoretically, this thing is fully broken in at this point. But
We ran braking oil in it,
Yeah.
drained it out, put that oil in my motor,
Yeah.
just because we're cheap on my own stuff. And then you have new oil and filter back in here now,
Okay.
ready to go again, 500 miles.
Okay.
You know you're going to drop that plug in.
What if there's no oil in here?
How's that look?
I think it looks about the same as when it went in.
Yeah. A little darker. But
Yeah.
It's still pretty clean looking. Yeah, that looks pretty clean yet. And it should.
Yeah. We probably have a couple hours of runtime on it.
I would imagine, with all the messing around we did. I just didn't want you to rip that up out of there and have my hand get sliced.
You're dumping all over. You're dumping all over. You're dumping all over.
Okay, I can't help it. Let's pour this out, see what we got. Okay, I'm not seeing anything down in there other than oil. Okay, there is one speck of something. Let's see what that is. That's almost like a fleck of paint.
It's not really metallic or.
No. I think that's just a little piece of glue out of the oil filter.
Could be.
Yeah, that's some of this out of there. But there's nothing.
Turn it a little bit. Well, like hold it just tilted towards me, but turn it, if that makes sense.
Like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing at all there out of the ordinary.
Okay.
Okay, well there's a piece of what that is. So what is that? That's something out of the oil filter itself.
I don't know what that is.
And
It's like
Different.
plastic more.
Yeah.
Or
I really think that's out of the filter itself here, like this stuff here. That's what it is.
huh.
That's the glue that they made the filter with.
Or at least that's a good excuse to tell the viewers.
But looking between the pleats here, I'm not seeing anything.
I don't see glitter.
No, there's no glitter. The only thing we're finding is those chunks of glue like that out of the oil filter. Okay, that should give me a
Sample.
good section of the pleats out of there. And what I've had work pretty good for me in the past is to kind of roll this up in a rag and then go over here to the press, another plate over the top. Now that should have the oil pushed out of the filter to where we can look for metal. Yeah, there's a little bit in there.
But not
Not,
a concerning amount to me.
no. I don't know what that white is. Again, looks like some paint. Yeah, there's a few little speckles in there, but that's about what new engines look like.
Huh.
And that's the whole idea of the filter, is to trap that stuff. But I don't see any big chunks that would be bearing material or anything like that. So I think we're okay.
Cool. Okay, so we'll send an oil sample off. See what they say.
Yeah.
So, and I guess with that, let's talk a little bit about running it on the dyno, because we did take it over. And on that first day, do you have that intermediate shaft anywhere or anything?
Right in here.
This piece.
That slot was too wide this way, and it let the
It would run fine at 1,000 RPM. You know, it would idle great, but as soon as you brought the RPM up and tried to hold it 4,000 RPM, some kind of harmonic was hitting with that slop in there, and the timing was bouncing all around. And
but when you would put that in, that one, and this isn't the one that was bad, but it just had way too much rotation this way. They did not fit well together.
So you fought that the first day.
we fought that the whole first day. Once we changed that intermediate shaft, I mean, you could bring it up to 4,000 RPM, and Pete said the timing was
It
steady,
held it right
you know,
there.
held it exactly where it should be. I think the most valuable thing we can look at is the true measured data from the dyno, which is, I mean, it has a load cell on it that measures the actual torque that is put out. It has been calibrated, and it's a true number. There's no math going into it to say like, oh, we want to correct for sea level and so on.
Sure.
So,
other than the calibrations of whatever equipment.
right.
That's the only.
Which, again, theoretically should be
Yeah.
reasonably calibrated. I don't know because it's not ours, but I'm sure it is.
I understand why you guys want to
Get
have
our
your
own.
dyno.
Yeah.
Because those are things you can't really answer.
Yeah. And again, it's nothing against our dyno guy. He's super helpful with us,
absolutely.
and we appreciate
Yeah.
him letting us film and letting us do that. So, but I did note on here, you know, we tested on November 29th. He's at roughly 5,200 feet elevation, 32% humidity roughly that day, and the test cell temperature was roughly 70 degrees. And the reason I'm telling you this is because there are correction factors. Most of the time when people give you dyno numbers, they're telling you a corrected number. Because essentially what happens is, when you're at elevation, an engine doesn't run as well as it runs at sea level.
Sure.
That's just the cold hard fact of it. But it's also a thing to standardize the numbers from day to day, because even just within your own test cell, you're going to have a day where it's colder and a day where it's hotter and a day where it's more humid or less humid. And by standardizing those numbers to a standard correction factor, you can get more repeatable results and get a more reasonable comparison from day to day. And then that carries over from my dyno to your dyno to their dyno and so on. But anyway, I sorted it out so that we just have our true measured numbers and our measured horsepower. And what that came out to on average, with our 7 different runs, 500, a little bit over 500 pound-feet of torque, 462 horsepower, 514 and 468, 509, 466. And kind of a rule of thumb that is a lower correction factor than I see people post in Colorado is that your power decreases by 3% per 1,000 feet of elevation. So, if you take your
Math.
500 pound-feet divided by 0.85, is that what that would be? Do the math, please.
You can't do it in your head? I
No.
thought you could do this in your head, Nick. No, I have seen you with your calculator.
What do you want?
509 divided by 0.85. So you're pushing right close to the range of 600 pound-feet of torque. And I think that is maybe a conservative estimate. I think our original numbers that I showed you were maybe generous, whereas I think this is more on the realm of conservative. But 600 pound-feet of torque is nothing to cry about.
Yeah.
And then 466 divided by 0.85.
548.
So close to 550 horsepower, and that would be kind of at the 5,400 RPM point. And we were peak torque right around 4,000 RPM. And that's another thing that was kind of weird, is we were pushing the limits of our dyno guy's dyno as far as the torque. Meaning, if we had started our test at a lower RPM range where your torque is possibly higher than what these numbers are, his water brake on his dyno may not have the capacity to hold the engine. So that's why we started at 4,000 RPM and ran to 5,500, because we were pushing the limits of his brake's capabilities.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's kind of a bummer, because like typically on a dyno graph, you see kind of where it's going up and then back down, and you see that peak point. On ours,
You're starting.
All of the peak points are at the bottom, and we were running to 5,500 RPM because that's kind of where I'd like you to call red line.
55?
Think so.
No.
It might go more than
No,
that, but please don't.
How old are you, Nick?
I'm almost 28.
So you might, but as a 50-year-old, like I don't need that anymore.
Sure.
Like I
Sure.
I'm kind of like, just
We'll
cruise.
talk about this later.
Yeah.
When the kids are here.
Yeah. But you'll see like on these graphs, and I can get you guys this document too.
Hold that thought. That kid over there, the 19-year-old who wants to drive this truck, would be the one. He'll be the one.
Please
But
be careful.
I'm making him sign a waiver. If he scatters that engine, he's paying for it.
But that's why you see the torque number on our graph just goes down, and the horsepower number just goes up, because it wants to make more power.
Yeah.
The higher, at higher RPM, but
Yeah.
I think we want to play it safe
Yeah,
with
that's
this.
it with
I
it.
would love this thing to be severely overbuilt for what you're going to use it for.
I think it is.
I'm hoping
It's
is.
a pavement princess that I'm just want to cruise around and I'll honestly not even use my radio. I'll just keep it down and put my windows down so I can listen to it.
So, and it sounds
sounds
awesome.
Yeah, it
so
does sound awesome.
But yeah, that's kind of where dyno numbers just get kind of. And everybody I talk to has a different opinion.
Sure.
So that's where I just wanted to go, let's look at the measured numbers and get a conservative correction.
Yeah.
So we're not correcting to sea level, we're not correcting to a standardized temperature, humidity, and so on. I'm just calling it 3% per 1,000 feet, looking at 5,000 feet.
Well, we'll get to hear a lot from everyone else and what they
I'm
think.
sure people will have opinions, and this is a thing where we're inexperienced because we don't have a dyno, so we haven't had the time to mess with it and learn and so on.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I don't really care. Like, am I going to use 550 horsepower or 600 horsepower or 520 horsepower? Like, it's 500 horsepower.
Yeah.
And for us, it served our purpose, knowing that mechanically it's sound.
It didn't toss a rod.
Yeah. And that exactly. And that for me is most important. And honestly, when I picked you guys, it was watching the quality of work that you guys do And it wasn't about, oh, I want the most powerful engine ever. No, I want something that's going to be fun.
I always tell people when I do an engine, I don't want to ever see you again with this engine. You can bring me another one. But I want this thing.
That sounds like a plan. I'm going to bring you another one.
To just stay together forever for you.
That's awesome. I really appreciate all that you guys have done. Like, I know that both of you put a ton of time in this.
Well, we appreciate you being patient with us. So the last thing I want to go over here, after we ran it on the dyno, we did send off an oil sample, and I'd like you to use these guys again.
Okay.
It costs money.
That's
so
all right.
It's up to you. But it would just help kind of establish a trend of if things are good or not good in the engine. Right now it says monitor, which sounds scary, but just to read here, silicon, copper, lead, and total wear are elevated, which is typical for new engine break-in. So there are some numbers here that look a little scary, but it's not because something's wrong. It's because when you break in an engine, things wear more right off the bat. That's why we drained the oil right away after the first 2 hours of runtime. And that's why I'm telling you to drive it for 500 miles and drain the oil again.
You want an oil sample done with this after 500? Because I can do that.
500,
and then I'll do the next one too.
Yeah, whatever your standard oil sample is.
Yeah.
And what they'll do is they'll compare to your previous samples with some context of, like, I gave them the context that this only has dyno time on it.
Yeah.
And they came back, all other results are within normal ranges. So resample it next oil change to monitor and establish a trend.
Okay.
So if it comes back and now you have, you still have numbers that are scary. And again, after the first 500 miles, there may still be some that are slightly elevated. But once you get into your normal, every however many miles you like to change your oil, I don't really want to get into that too much.
I wouldn't go more than 3 on this, but that's that's me, and I'll probably go under 3 just because it's my baby, it's my toy. What's an extra,
But when you get into some normal driving and normal time, that's when I'd like to. Mostly, you need to know: is there something going on or not? When we drained the oil, it looked
like brand new oil.
That's
why I was confident enough in it. I saved it and put it in our engine.
We put it in our own engine. So, it looked good. We cut open the oil filter, and
no more blue flakes of paint.
No more blue flakes. Exactly.
We managed to get rid of those.
That's kind of where we're at, and I'm giving you all of this to keep, so you can look through it and decide if it scares you or not. But
that's awesome.
It doesn't scare us. So,
well, we really appreciate it, and I can't thank you guys enough for taking on this job, and I know, like, to your community, like, this isn't your normal stuff either, so it was kind of a little bit of a change up for them too. So I appreciate you guys letting me have them for a little bit of time for this project, and I can't tell you how excited I am.
Well, it was fun doing it.
Yeah. If you ever make it out to Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh area, I'll absolutely give you the keys, Jim, and you get to drive it. You're allowed. I don't know if I'm gonna let the 28-year-old drive it. Maybe. No, we'll let.
I know how much time and money is in this thing, so maybe I would be a little careful with it. But no, we appreciate it too.
I think the next thing that's gonna happen is I'm gonna probably scatter my transfer case and probably throw a couple U-joints. That's in the.
You could probably run this a long time with what you've got, as long as you don't try a bunch of crazy launches.
Right. With 35-inch tires on pavement, right?
Yeah.
Let's light them up.
I don't know. That's, I guess, the end of the series.
I love it, man.
But I'm excited to see, I hope you guys will continue on.
For sure.
I guess we should give a shout out to Trick Flow. They helped us out on the cylinder heads and the rocker arms and, some of the parts up there.
Yes, thank you.
CP Carrillo helped us out on the pistons and helped sponsor the build. So that was. And
special thanks to Josh of Engine Rehab for coming in and doing what he did too.
Exactly.
It's not like he lives like next door.
No, this build, there was a lot of collaboration, and Josh has a lot of acquaintances that
Pete Graves was one too.
Helped us out on it, and appreciate everybody coming together. I mean, this thing, it took a village to to make this thing happen.
Yeah.
So, but here we are.
Well, for us, the next thing will be getting it in and having some runs, and you guys will see that for sure. So, I mean, we'll probably film some stuff along the way as well.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm beating on the valve cover with a hammer.
Hopefully.
Sweet.
All right.
Thanks,
Awesome.
brother. Thank you. Thank you too. Appreciate you guys both.
Let's get it in the truck.